to certify anything unless they have sponsored payroll or cost share to report. So all of this data is done on an annual or loaded and separated out into separate AYs or academic years. And it's based on an academic year, which is 8/16 to 8/15 every year. It's based on the payroll dates, meaning MN5, MN6, that type of thing, and not when the payroll posts. So even if payroll posts today, and it's for AY24, we are currently in AY, or we will be, yeah, we're in AY25, that will still post to the AY24 report. So the system knows that. And let's see. So for some of you who were here last year, you know that there are two different kinds of statements now. We have effort statements and project statements. So project statements, or excuse me, effort statements are what we would call faculty statements or an individual statement. That's what we're sort of used to seeing in our old system, in the ERS system. So that will show a faculty and all of their sponsored effort all on one page, along with their non-sponsored funding sources. Then we have project statements, which are basically a statement for each fund that they're each sponsored fund. And if whomever is the PI on that fund is going to be the certifier, and they will certify everybody else on the statement that is what we call quote unquote non-faculty. So non-faculty are not the true meaning of the word faculty, but they are essentially everybody who is not a faculty E-class, so beginning with an A. Anybody who is an A means they're faculty, and they're going to have an effort statement if their E-class begins with an A. Now, we do have some faculty that will not be, or they'll get pushed into the non-faculty role because if they're faculty at other campuses or at other universities, they will default to non-faculty and show up on a project statement, as well as if there are faculty that are hourly and, don't have that A designation, then they will also default. So it's not a true sense of faculty, but there are a few little caveats there. So we'll have both of those types of statements. An individual should not show up on an effort statement as well as a project statement. It will be one or the other. That's determined by their appointment as of 8/16. And when I say 8/16, that means I think I'm let me maybe throw a little caveat there. I'm pretty sure that as of 8/16, the date, our data loads 2 days later roughly 2 days later than what's in Banner. So it may not capture that date. Usually our academic appointments will begin on 8/16. It will often probably not capture if somebody changes from one academic year to another. It will truly catch it at one point in time. And at that one point in time, that determines their statement type for the rest of the academic year. And then the next year, if they have changed employee classes, then that will be effective the following year. So just know that there shouldn't be, someone should not be on both types of statements. And that snapshot or that change is made at one point in time as of 8/16, but it may not be their actual 8/16 appointment date. So just keep that in mind for explanation purposes and such. So you can get to the ECC system multiple ways. We have a link on our website. You can bookmark it. It is sort of set up for, multi-factor authentication. It's sort of linked to all of your logins. So if you're already logged in at the university, you click on the link, it's going to take you right there. However, if you have not logged in yet at the university, or maybe you're offsite, then it's going to prompt you for your net ID, your login, etc. And here's the link here. So ECC, the system, so the way that the data comes in is payroll data is loaded into Banner. We separate that data out into 5 different components here, into various department data, people data, basically like employee data, project data, so fund data, sponsor data, and payroll. So all of those sort of get uploaded separately. They all kind of mesh into and blend into the ECC system into what we see now as effort statements, project statements. We can pull reports using the data. But it is based on Banner. There is a 1 to 2 day lag from Banner into ECC. But it is a live system, which is different than our old system, which we used to have to load it at one point in time, and that was it. So that is a huge plus of the ECC system. Now, the way that these statements are created is throughout the year, it's going to be in a building status. And then any of the payroll that an individual is charged on, it's either going to be split into sponsored or non-sponsored. So once that pre-review stage hits, the system will look to see, okay, is there any sponsored effort for this individual on this fund or, for that particular faculty? If so, it goes into a ready for pre-review status. And if not, if it's all non-sponsored, then it's going to go to auto-approved, what I mentioned before. Then once it goes into ready for pre-review, that'll be October 7th. Then you'll have 3 weeks to pre-review. And that is essentially your review, your calculation of effort, your entries, etc. And then once you're complete and you're done, then you'll click the pre-review button, and then it's ready so that when October 28th, the faculty log in or notified that they have effort reports to certify or are able to log in and certify, then that status switches from pre-review to ready for certification. Then they are enabled to certify that report for that 2-week time period. They will not get a notification if it has not been pre-reviewed. So if you wait until, October or November 7th, like the day before it ends, it also takes a day for the system to change that statement from one status to the next. So if you certify it on October 7th, they're not going to get a notification until well, I guess it could be October or November, but they won't get a notification until the next day. So it is important to really try to get your stuff done during the pre-review period, and so that your faculty do get the notifications when the system opens and that they have that maximum amount of time to certify. And then once it's certified, I think this screen sort of shows you what happens after the fact if a labor distribution posts. We do use a different threshold than this. We are sort of kind of figuring out that right balance, but we are not using a 3% threshold. So I do want to caution that our threshold is pretty small right now, and so we are reopening in most cases based on what we're using right now. So if it hits a certain threshold, then we're going to post it and reopen it. But if it doesn't hit the threshold, then we leave it. We are able to post that adjustment and then still leave it certified, showing that there are discrepancies. But based on our standards, we have determined that those aren't big enough to reopen the statement for. So those are the various stages that a report goes through. And this is just a reference slide we see a lot of icons on there for the various types of reports, what stage it's in. This is what they all mean. I won't go into too much detail on this because that's essentially what I went over, but now there's symbols to go with it. Let's see. So your role as a business manager is very important. Let me just say that. And I will note that this information in pink up at the top is put across all of these because we want you all to make sure that you're aware that you're responsible for reviewing, doing the pre-review stage and putting those effort statements and project statements in the pre-reviewed status so that when certification opens, your faculty get that notification, they have optimal time. So we really do need you to do your part, and hopefully you're able to do it within those 3 weeks. And it's also important that after that pre-review period is ended and you've done all that you need to do, you are not done yet. Same as same as our prior system, we still want you to follow up with your faculty. If they're not certifying it, why aren't they certifying it? Do they have questions? Did they not get the notification? Did they miss the notification? They're supposed to also get reminders through ECC. And then later on in here, we'll show you there's a way that you can see, sort of what emails are going out. But I would just say your part is very important during pre-review, but we also need you to be involved during the certification period to help us sort of close the loop. But as a business manager or an effort coordinator is what you're called in the ECC system. You can access statements at any time all year round with live data. There is, like I said, a 1 to 2 day lag with payroll from Banner, but you can check that throughout the year. So you can use that for other purposes, and you can sort of keep an eye on it throughout the whole year if you want to. Let's see, we also want you to help, follow up on any outstanding certifications, any hard tasks that get created and cause us to reopen a statement. We do want you to help follow up on that and help resolve that and help get it recertified. If a certifier for an effort statement needs to be replaced, maybe they're no longer here, they're out on extended leave and not able to complete the effort certification, you would designate a proxy. And essentially the same type of task that you're doing for project statements, we just call it a designee. You would name a designee. So they can be different, different individual for the effort statement versus a particular project. And you want to sort of get those set up as soon as possible so that, we have the right folks in place and we're not waiting until the last day and realize that we don't have a current certifier in there. You can also, to a certain extent, add and remove business managers as needed. Definitely if they're existing, but it gets a little bit tougher when you're trying to add new folks on if they're not within your department or new to the university as a whole. Then you might need our assistance, but I would recommend, we do sort of show you how you might be able to do that if it's existing folks. That way you don't have to wait on us. And then we have to assign a primary business manager to each 6-digit org that has effort statements or project statements. And the next slide will show you sort of what the differences are. But I would say in general, that primary person is the main person that's going to be working on those statements. You can assign other business managers or effort coordinators that may be helping out. But as the next slide will show, they are missing out on a few things by not being the primary business manager. And we can only assign one primary business manager. That is how the system is designed. And we have a little demo that we'll go through in a moment, which will show that. And so in this little screenshot here, and the left-hand side of the screenshots, let's see, Beth Arnold, the one who's highlighted, is the primary effort coordinator for that particular organization. All the others listed are what we would call secondary. So they all have access. They can do a lot of what that primary can do. It's just they're missing out on a lot of communications, as shown here, and they are not able to access project statements on their work list. They can access the effort statements for that particular org, but not the project statements. However, they can use the search function and still access by fund or, by searching the fund number up and still access the statement. It's just not easily or readily available on their work list. And essentially that primary person is who is responsible. And with that, I think I will stop sharing and Kathleen is going to show us, we have a little recorded demo of the ECC system. So with that, while Kathleen is getting that prepared, I will check to see if we have any questions at the moment. All right, I think we,
Any questions we should touch on before I press play?
just checking now. We did have a question. Can we request a change in certifier and ECC, or do we have to wait until October 7th? You can do that now. You cannot really do it in ECC. You do have to email us at ospeffort@uic.edu. And then you'll have to, we have a slide on it later on what you need to include with that request, but we will have to make that change for you. And we'll need to know, why whomever you are designating as the designee or proxy is the next most knowledgeable person. Oftentimes we are going to recommend the department head. We try not to change it to just the business manager. We do want, that individual supervisor, whomever might be the best, most knowledgeable person of that, programmatic work that was occurring. So you can request that now.
And then did you want to answer the question about instructions for secondary effort coordinators? Or do we want to go through the demo first and then?
I think we'll go through the demo, and that would probably be something maybe we go through at the end of the presentation if there are questions, or there will be a job aid, or there's also a report for that if I'm understanding that question. So we can touch on that at the end if possible. So I would say go ahead and play, Kathy.
Okay, and just to confirm, you can see the ECC system. Okay, perfect. Then I'm going to go ahead and press play, and this is a demo that will hopefully review some of the questions that will be coming up.
Yeah. Okay, so once you click the link to go into the system, you'll sign in through two-factor authentication, and then you'll be routed to the ECC homepage. So this is what you can expect to see once you sign into the system. You'll see tabs up here that you can navigate to, and down here is where you'll see your work list. So for effort statements, if you click the associated effort statements tab, you'll see the outstanding statements that you're required to pre-review. And in the associated project statements tab, similarly, you'll see the outstanding project statements that are assigned to you. We'll talk more about the effort tasks later on, but this tab will show you those tasks where sponsored payroll loaded to a statement after it was certified. But from the associated effort statements tab, you'll see column information regarding the specific statement. So you can see the statement owner, you can see the department, the period, due date, as well as the current status. And all of these are hyperlinks that will take you to the statement. So if we click Ready for Pre-Review, this will route us to the employee's effort statement. So on the effort statement, you'll see information at the top regarding the period, status, the employee name, as well as the work list over here. So the statement itself, you can see at the top, it lists the faculty's name, the period of performance, the status as well. And the statement is broken down between two sections, sponsored funds and non-sponsored. And then you can see the account names listed here. As well, the column information, start, end date, the payroll that was charged, payroll percentage, confirmed payroll, any cost share that's on the statement, as well as computed effort and the certified effort. So on this statement, we'll ask that during the pre-review period, you log in and you view these statements to make sure that all the information reflected on the statement is accurate. If it's not accurate, you can put the statement on hold. You can put in a reason right here, test, and click confirm. This will put the statement on hold until you're able to process a labor redistribution. So when the statement is on hold, This will prevent the statement from routing to the certifier to certify. And then once you process the labor redistribution, you can uncheck that, click OK in the pop-up, and this will move the statement back to ready for pre-review. And then once you validate everything is correct on the statement, you can click the pre-review button down here. This will move the statement to that pre-reviewed status, at which point it'll stay there until the certification period when it routes to the certifier for certification. You can also toggle between dollar values and percents on the statement by clicking this dollar value hyperlink right here. This will move everything to a dollar value, and then you can toggle it back to get percentages. If you want to run reports on the statement, you can click this little newspaper icon here, and this will show you a list of reports that you can run based on the effort statement. At the bottom here, you can see notes that you can add to a statement. So you just click the little plus icon here, and this will let you add a note that the central administration team or the faculty can see. So we can just put in test here, save note. As well, you can add attachments to the statement by clicking this little paperclip icon. So you can upload a PDF if you want the central administration team or the faculty to be able to view it. Transaction log will show you when payroll was loaded to a statement or when it changed statuses. Activity log as well will show you any activity that happened related to the statement. And then as well, email, you can see when an email was sent out regarding that statement. So any questions about the effort statement before we move to project statements? Okay. All right, so from the homepage, if you are a primary business manager, you'll see this associated project statements tab with statements that you are assigned to. Non-primary business managers will have to navigate to the department dashboard, which we can do now. So if you click Manage on the top menu bar, you can see the department dashboard submenu right there. You click this, be routed to this department dashboard search page. If you click this arrow here, you'll see a drop down of the departments that you're assigned to. And then you can just select the department and click the choose icon. And this will take you to your department dashboard page. So from here, if you're a non-primary business manager, you could click that project certifications tab, and you'll see a list of the outstanding project statements and their statuses within your department. So here, these are all hyperlinks as well, these icons. So we can go to the project statement by clicking this button. This will route you to the project statement. So on the project statement, you'll see the work list right here, as well as you'll see fund information on the right in this box here. On the project statement, you'll see a list of all employees that charge payroll to that fund, department, as well. You'll see similar columns to the effort statement. So that payroll amount, you'll see payroll percentage, any cost share that's on the statement, as well as the certified effort. The certified column will apply to the PIs that are certifying their statements. So on the project statement, like the effort statement, we'll ask that you review them for accuracy. If you do need to put the statement on hold for a labor redistribution, it's the same process. You can click that on hold button, click OK, type in a reason, and then click confirm. That'll put the project statement on hold until that labor redistribution is processed. And then you can just take it off hold by clicking the check mark once that's done. It's the same thing with project statements. Add effort statements for the bottom of the statement. You could add notes, attachments, see when payroll is loaded to the project statement, as well as the activity log and email log. Once you review the statement for accuracy, you can click that preview button, and it'll move to that previewed status. As well, you can run reports on the project statement the same way by clicking that little newspaper icon. And then you can toggle and see the payroll report for an employee on the project by clicking the dollar icon. And you can view all payroll that the employee was charged to during the period to see 100% of their institutional base salary by clicking the PDF icon next to the dollar icon. All right, any questions about the project statement before we go back to the department dashboard? Okay, so going back to the department dashboard, this is the view you'll have as a business manager in the system. So you'll see the effort certifications tab, which will show all of the effort statements in your department, broken down between sponsored and non-sponsored. This is the test department, so we have one statement in this department. Make sure when you're on the effort certifications tab to leave it set to faculty. So like I said, only faculty will have effort statements. So if you switch this little search box here, that can mess with your results. And then as well, you can search by period. So this period of performance will be 8/16 to 8/15, 2023. So once there's more periods, you can break that down if you want to see historical periods. As well, it's the same for project statements. You'll see your list of project statements below, their current statement status, and then as well, make sure you leave this non-faculty, and you can select the current period. The grant and fund tab will show you all the information related to that grant. So in the name column for this grant, for instance, this is a hyperlink right here, which will take you to a fund summary page, which will show you all information related to that specific fund. So you can see the related project statements tab, as well as personnel that are listed on that project. All right, going to the department information tab. This is where you'll be able to see all business managers listed within your department. So it'll be under the department effort coordinators section right here. And the primary business manager will be highlighted in yellow. So you can see in this testing department, Mimi is the primary business manager. If you need to add a new business manager to the department, you can click this add hyperlink right here. And this will take you to the manage assignments page. From this page, you can either type in an employee's name or employee ID, and it will populate with results. So we'll just add as an example, Jessica Smith. Once you select the name, you can click Save at the bottom. This will add the business manager to access for the entire department. The page will refresh and it will say individual effort coordinator assignments processed successfully. Then you can close this page and you'll see that now Jessica Smith is listed under department effort coordinators. So now she is added as another non-primary business manager within the department. If you want to switch a primary and non-primary business manager, you can click the pencil icon under the actions column. So we'll click that. The page will refresh, and now you'll see that Jessica Smith is highlighted under this section. So now she's the primary business manager within the department.
Trina, did you want to jump in?
Yes, and so we'll pause it right here. I just want to note here that this is showing you how you can add or remove a business manager. We are asking this year that you send a lot of your requests to us because it turned out that you'll have issue or you won't be able to add folks if they are not within your org. If they're new to the university, we have to give them an effort coordinator role. So even though you may see it, the change may occur in ECC. They may log in and they won't be able to, see their work list or what have you. And so we'll have to assign a role. So I would say this is good information to have for existing folks that have already been effort coordinators. They're within your org and you can move those folks around. I would say feel free to go ahead and do that. I would just caution when you start involving, business managers or effort coordinators from different different departments, or if they're new to the university, it'll probably require our involvement. So I'm fine with you all having that information. And then I think we have another short little clip that Kathleen will get started on that we wanted to show before we come back to the presentation. I don't think I've seen many questions. I think I've seen a couple, but we are going to pause on some of those and get through the rest of the slides before we start answering some more questions at the end.
So can you see the ECC system again for
Yes.
the next demo?
Mhm.
Awesome. Go ahead and press play.
You'll see a search box here. So as well as from your work list and the department dashboard, you can use this search box at the top right to search for an employee, department, or a specific grant. So it is a live system. So as you type, ECC is processing what you're putting in. So if we type in, for example, Smith, well, no results found. Let's see.
And I'll just add a note here that in this example, he tried to type in the last name. It didn't work. I will say in this particular example, it probably happened because it's a demo system and maybe there wasn't a Smith. However, from us on the OSP side and probably from the unit side, you may have run into this. Maybe you've typed in a UIN that you know exists, or a person, or a fund, and it does not come up. There are a couple of common reasons why that happens. If you're typing in the fund and it's not appearing, it'll say no results. Sometimes that occurs if the fund, or sorry, I think the fund, it'll still show up, but if the person, if you put in the UIN and the person is no longer at the university, then they show up on your department dashboard as terminated, and that's the only way to get to their statement. You can try till your fingernails fall off to put in the UIN, it will not come up, and you'll say, I know this person exists. I know they have a statement. There's another way to go in, but I would say the best way is to go to your department dashboard, and then that may be why they're not showing up. It can also, another common reason is if you get timed out, the system may time you out and it'll show as if you're in there. But if you know you haven't been working in it in maybe 15 minutes or so, I would refresh and then try the search function again. But other than that, I would say let us know if something keeps happening, because we do want to document that and provide those examples to our folks over at Huron. So, but those are a couple of reasons, and we'll finish playing this short clip.
All right. So searching for the first 3 characters of an employee ID, you can see that it says 8 results found. If you type in an employee ID, grant number, department, and it's an exact match, the system will automatically route you to that page. If there's multiple results, it'll say, for example, 8 results found, and then you can click the magnifying glass icon, and this will take you to the lookup page. So this will break it down between employee, department, fund, active or inactive. So from here, you can search for, based off of the characters you entered, specifically what you're looking for. So for example, under here, we could click this employee's name, and it'll take you directly to their effort statement. For these funds, we could click the names, and they just take us to that grant page.
And that is where I'm going to end my sharing.
All right,
And
thank you, Kathleen.
no problem.
All right, and I will pick back up. And let me know if you cannot see my slides, but I think they are showing. So now we're going to talk about the pre-review period, which will be starting October 7th. You're going to be responsible as an effort coordinator or business manager for pre-reviewing all your effort and project statements. You may share this responsibility with, between primary and secondary. You can also assign like a replacement effort coordinator. I'm trying to think of what the terminology is in ECC, or you can name somebody for a particular PI and you can set that up in ECC, or you can let us know and we can try to help set up that access. But either way, this is going to be an effort coordinator's responsibility. You're going to be calculating effort. Okay, we're not just certifying what payroll has been charged. We want to make sure that the effort for that period matches, what was proposed, what was actually worked, what was communicated to the sponsor. And this is often going to require the help of our effort calculator, which is a link within the ECC system. Unless your person is under the NIH cap, they don't have any cost share, or they're under any sponsor's cap, then it may be just a direct reflection of their payroll. But oftentimes it is not. So we would highly recommend that you use the effort calculators to help you figure out what needs to be in there, what you need to show as cost share, etc. Any adjustments that are made, anything you realize while you're going through pre-review that the payroll is off, you need to make an adjustment, that needs to occur in Banner first. It will post in ECC 1 to 2 days later. So then that's when you will want to go in and, remove a hold or allow that statement to go on to the certifier to be certified. It is updated nightly. As well as cost share. So for effort statements, cost share is updated that same day or as you're doing it. But for project statements, that is a separate entry and it at least takes 1 business day to load in there as well. So you want to also, account for time that it takes to, do a labor redistribution, make cost share entries, and then wait for it to post in ECC. It must be pre-reviewed before a certifier can certify. They will not get a notification. They won't be able to certify. So they cannot do what they need to do until it has been pre-reviewed in the system. If it hasn't been pre-reviewed by the time that the pre-review period ends and the certification period opens, that faculty member or that certifier will not get an email until it has been opened. And so, depending on how communications go out, sometimes they're made aware that, hey, this is certification period. It's starting at this time. They might start asking, where's my statement? I didn't get an email. I logged in. I can't see it. So I would highly recommend that as a business manager or effort coordinator that you complete your pre-review during the pre-review period. An email will go out during pre-review. It'll give some, this is an example from last year, just some general information, some suggestions, you know, how to approach it. You know, that's pretty much what our prior presentation training talked about, some of that, as well as giving you the basics of effort reporting and the intent and the purpose. You know, we already mentioned that those that are in a department that have no sponsored effort will show up in ECC, but once that pre-review period opens, they will go to auto certification. So when you log in and the pre-review period is opened, that's when you'll see a work list. So I know we had a question about that. You know, someone logged in and they didn't see their work list, and that's because right now we are not in the pre-review period. So there's not anything for you to officially do, but you can access your list through the department dashboard. You can access your effort list, you can access your project statement list, and you can access it there, but it won't show up on your work list. But once the pre-review period begins, you can, you know, click the links directly from here and you'll be able to access the statements from here. You'll see the various statuses once we get into a period, once they can be in multiple statuses. If you log in now and you have listings on your state, this is a good time. Let me plug this. It's a good time to log in now to see if you have anything on your work list, because if so, that is something from AY23 that probably needs to be resolved. Some of those things we might be in process or working with you all on, and other things. They may just be par tasks that we're waiting to be recertified. So definitely check in there, try to get whatever you can resolve from AY23. We will, you know, continue to follow up on that as well. That is essentially what your work list looks like. I do want to emphasize that it automatically, when you log in, it defaults to the effort statements tab. You have to click on your project statement tab if you are, you know, a primary effort coordinator. Otherwise, if you're not, you won't have a project statement work list. But if you are the primary, you have to click on that tab to see how many project statements. So right now, this view doesn't show you how many you have. That does not mean you don't have any. It means you need to click on it and a number will appear and then you'll see your list. So be sure to click on both lists to make sure you're aware. And if you're responsible for multiple orgs, you're going to have to, I think they may show up all on your work list, but when you go to department dashboard, you're going to have to look at each 6-digit org separately. And then let's see, just the columns here, you know, we have sponsored up at the top, non-sponsored effort down at the bottom. When in total on an effort statement, it's going to equal or roughly round to 100%. We give you the payroll dollars, payroll percent. Confirmed payroll is going to be, you know, it should be a mirror of payroll percent, but if you realize that something needs a labor redistribution, maybe you want to enter in what it should be, and then you're waiting for payroll to post so that those two match. But these two should match when you are submitting. And then if there's any cost share, that's done entered by percentage. And then the sum of confirmed payroll and cost share will equal computed effort. And then computed effort should equal certified effort. I know that last year, and this might be something we talk about in our mini sessions, but sometimes there were variances between computed effort and certified effort due to the timing of when things were saved. And if payroll or any you know, cost share or something has changed after the fact, that can put those out of sync. But I won't go into that in detail at this time. So that's generally how the statement is set up. This little, I kind of call it a business card. I don't know what to call it. Little business card in the upper left-hand corner. That's where you can run various reports that tend to be handy. You can run those out of ECC. The on hold up at the top, that can be done by central office, that can be done by you at the unit. Either one can take it off or put it on, but essentially putting something on hold means that we're not allowing the certifier to certify. That may be because you're, you know, working on reviewing it and you're not quite ready, whatever it may be. But just be sure to remove the hold. And all you have to do is uncheck the box to allow the individual to certify if it's ready. And then if you want to see less percents and more dollars, or you want to see the statement in dollars, then you can also toggle that on and off. Let's see. So if you have faculty that are over a sponsor's cap, so not just NIH, not just HHS, we have loaded other sponsor caps that we are aware of. So if there are any that you believe are missing, please let us know. I mean, if it is grant specific and not necessarily sponsor specific, then that may not be something that we can capture in the ECC, and that would be something you would need to track. But in general, this is how the ECC is going to show if a particular sponsor has a cap and this individual is flagged as being over the cap. You're going to see a red question mark that says cap. You're going to click on it or hover over that icon, and it's going to show you different computations. But essentially, it's showing you if what's charged is correct, then you haven't recognized enough cost share off, usually, right? Is because we don't preload any cost share data. And so if you haven't entered anything in there for cost share, then it's going to show as if, well, if you charge 10%, then we assume that person's effort is 10%. So therefore you've charged too much because you've charged full 10% of their salary as opposed to 10% of their cap. And then it also shows you, has another calculation if the amount charged is correct, then it's showing you, well, if the amount charged is correct, then this is what you would need to enter as cost share. So it shows you sort of the two different ways, as well as if you click on, so that's if you hover over that cap icon. If you click on it, then that will actually take you to a little calculator that can help you determine, okay, well, if it's neither of those options, say effort should have been 15, then it will show you how much should be direct charge and how much should be cost shared. Very big caution. This is the same caution that we had last year, is this will not appear correctly for anybody less than 1 FTE. That includes people that are less than 12 months. So if they're 9/12, it is not automatically going to show correctly for them. We have to do a load, which has not been done yet, but it will be done by the time that pre-review opens. We have to determine an annualized FTE. We basically override the data that's in there. And then we are working on ways to update that even after we load it, because we have seen changes having to occur after the fact. Maybe something is brought to our attention. Maybe that's how the payroll was entered, or summer salary gets loaded later, or some other type of appointment, and that affects that annualized FTE. But that's just a big caution here. The only time it will show for those less than 1 FTE if they are over that, absolute dollar amount of the cap. So that's just a caution there. It will show for a lot of your folks, but anyone less than 1 FTE and they are under the absolute dollar amount of that sponsor's cap, then they are not going to show correctly. But you should still be recognizing, recording cost share and documenting that over the cap. And so in this example, or in these screenshots, it just kind of shows how you would enter salary cap or cost share. They both kind of get entered the same way. You're going to have to enter it fund by fund up at the top in the sponsored section. And then once you've done that for every single fund, you want to do everything on the fund. And then down at the bottom, you want to enter, the cumulative cost share across all sponsored projects. If you do not do that, then you will have to redo it every time. It'll clear out everything. So you have to do all of your sponsored effort first at the top, and then the cumulative effort by funding source that's going to be cost shared down in the bottom. Then you are not done. Then you have to go and distribute it by for each funding source. So if in this example, the individual has 4 funds, but only one, that one, outlined in red, has a cost share commitment of 3.24. You can only enter in cost share if you have sort of an amount in that max allowed, meaning cost share was entered for that particular fund. And you don't have to use that full amount on that particular fund. Maybe you're cost sharing it from 3 different sources. So then maybe one's 1%, 1%, and 1.2%. 0.24%. That's how you'll have to do it fund by fund. It is tedious. That is something we are working with the sponsor on to try to figure out a better way to enter this, and we are still working on that. So as of now, it is still working in the same way it worked last year. And I just want to caution that if you need to remove it, you need to make a change. You basically have to remove everything. You're going to say remove cost share. It's going to not just, you can't just correct one fund. You have to remove it all. So I highly urge anyone who has to make changes to it, I would do little snippets or screenshots of what was there before, so you remember what you need to enter in again for any funds that you weren't changing. And we do have videos, little instructional videos, what we call tutorials online, that go over a lot of these different areas in more detail, or go through the example live, and cost share, or being one of them, cost share, salary cap. But once you have entered the cost share appropriately, you've met that cost share obligation, there's no flag, it doesn't show as if it hasn't been met, then you will know, let's see, I think it's set on the other slide that the cap icon that was like the red question mark and said cap, it turns to green. That's how you know when it's been met. And the same thing here. Once, you've used all of, one of the cost share on a particular fund, and we've met that obligation, then, it's turned to green. We've met all the obligations for cost share, and therefore we can save it and we should be good. So I will caution that sometimes those are not correct if, if the annualized FTE is not correct. It may not show appropriately. So that's why we're trying to figure out a way to, we have to load the data and do our calculations for the annualized FTE, and then possibly need to change it at future dates, depending on if things change with payroll, or maybe the payroll is entered differently. So I will give that little caution. It's in not every case is it going to be 100% correct. Let's see. I think I mentioned this, all your cost share has to be deleted. So then I'll mention the pre-review period for project statements. So all is pretty similar. I believe, according to the prior slide, if you're the primary, you're going to get an email for effort statements and project statements. If you're secondary, you're only going to get the email for effort. But you will get some sort of notification when the system opens. Same thing for non-sponsored funds that are on a list. It will be on your dashboard. You'll see state funds. Those get auto-approved. You don't have to do anything with those. It's only those that are sponsored funds. So if you go to your dashboard and you are the primary effort coordinator, you will have a project statement work list like this. And it looks very similar to your effort statement. So once you click on it, you saw before in the prior screenshot, there was no number there. It just said associated project statements. Once you click on it, then that number will populate and you'll see your list that you have to work on. So you'll have some fund information. You'll have the start and end date, the name of the project. So you have some general information up at the top for each fund, and it is by fund. So if a particular grant has 5 funds and that PI is the PI on 5 funds, they're going to have 5 funds for project statements, not just one, even though maybe you may think of it as one. So just know that we define a project statement by fund. So when you look at the project statements, it has similar functionality. We have that little business card icon where you can run related reports to the project statement. You can also place it on hold, and then you also have some payroll reports. So the dollar icon is the one that will run a payroll report similar to the effort statement. The little page icon is one that will show you with effort statement or with project statements, you don't see 100% of a person's pay. So for in this example, Jessica Smith, all we see is 50% of her pay. We don't know if the other 50% is on sponsored awards. We don't know if she's, 50% on state. We don't know the makeup of her total pay. We don't know what her total pay is. And sometimes that's important when you're doing these certifications. And so that little page icon will display, it'll show you all the funding sources that they're paid from and 100% of their IBS. So that can help you determine if 50% is appropriate and you're not sure. So that is a little bit different than the effort statements. And then this is just a screenshot of the pre-review. This is like what is officially pre-reviewing. You do all your entries, you make any payroll adjustments, you add cost share, whatever it may be. And then to officially pre-review, you click this pre-review button. It will change a status from pre-review to pre-reviewed, or ready for pre-review to pre-reviewed. And then that it will change status again once it's ready for certification, and that certification period opens on October 28th. So how do you enter cost share for project statements? It's different than effort statements. Effort statements, we could enter it directly onto the statement. And with project statements, this is where I was mentioning there's a link in the system. It will take 1 to 2 business days for your entries to be loaded to ECC. So they are not directly added to ECC. They're entered into a queue, and then that queue will get uploaded into ECC. So make sure to account for some time for that. We also have an instructional video on how to enter cost share. We won't go into too much detail here because that is available. And then on the statements, we have these common categories that you may use at some point. Notes, that's where you can put any comments if there's 0% effort on maybe an effort statement rather than a project statement, or you could have it on both. Ideally, you are entering why somebody has 0% effort. That is usually a questionable item. You could have a very valid response, but that is something we would encourage you to put notes on. Anything else that you think is useful for review next year. Any attachments, that's where we will attach if a labor redistribution post after a statement is certified. We will attach a copy of what we call the PAR task. It'll show you what changed. It'll highlight what changed, and then we'll attach a copy of the previously certified effort statement in case you need to compare and see what the difference is. Those are common attachments you'll see in there, but you may also choose to attach something else that's helpful, maybe an email that explains some sort of effort on a particular fund. And then there's also the transaction log, the activity log. Those are very mind-boggling when you look at them. Sometimes they are hard to read. I won't go into too much detail there, but you know, transaction log, you're going to see a lot of the payroll posting day by day type of thing, type of activity by fund. Activity log, you might see when people log in or something was certified, and the email log is going to be when emails go out. So I would say those aren't accesses very often, but we do look at that and we're like, wait a minute, what happened? What was the series of events? We do go to those logs. And then I'll go over the certification period. So this is that 2-week period that faculty have to certify, where the pre-reviewed status then switches over to ready for certification. Like I mentioned, if these statements were not pre-reviewed previously, even though October 28th hits, they are not going to get a notification until it has actually been in that pre-reviewed status. And then the next day it needs to switch over. So certifiers are responsible for certifying their own statement. If they want you to make an adjustment, that has to be done in payroll. That cannot be done, and that should not be done in ECC. You need to allow for that type of time frame. Let's see, anything else to note here? I think I mentioned about the cost share, you know, effort statements you can edit directly. Project statements you do have to load and allow that time for it to load. I mentioned the statement, placing the statement on hold. You're using that box. We did turn off the notifications for on hold status. We had that on at some point, and then it was creating a lot of extra emails. So we did turn that off. So if a faculty member says, hey, I can't certify the statement, you had it on hold, you fixed what you needed, you took it off, I would recommend letting them know that you took it back off because they don't get notified when it is removed. And also, if you are handling partas, I know we get questions on this a lot. We from central office put it on hold because we don't want the faculty to certify it again before you've had a chance to review after that labor distribution. So we do put it on hold, but you can just as easily take it off hold if you've reviewed and all is good. We do not have to remove the hold just because we placed it. So I know there was a question about, if we need to assign a proxy or designee for a faculty member, a certifier. This is the information that you would send to ospeffort@uic.edu. You're going to include the UIN of the proxy or designee, the original certifier, or the original fund statement, a project statement, reason for the change, why is this person the next most knowledgeable? And like we note here, and we are going to push back if you want to move it to yourself, we're going to ask, is there a direct supervisor available? Is there a department head? Those are the folks we do want to be the replacements for these folks. So post-certification period, this is different from last year. Last year, we initially started out giving you all access to when labor distributions would post, and you could choose, post it and do a recertification. However, we've instituted a more of a threshold, and we're monitoring it to make sure that, we don't say that something doesn't need to be recertified when it really does. So that is something that we are doing at the central office level. We handle that. Let's see, I'm trying to think of anything I want to note here of big interest. Yeah, I mean, we will attach, and I think on this, the next slide is an example of it. Like this is what we see at the central office when we get the partas and we're reviewing. And this is an example of an effort statement. Task. We do also have project statements, and those look a little bit different, but we save this for you. We attach that in the attachment section so that you can see what we saw, and this is why we were reopening it. We save it with the date that it gets posted in ECC, so you know about when the labor distribution was done. That is not going to be the same date in Banner, because like I said, there's a 2-day lag, 1 to 2 day lag. But we will attach this to help you kind of figure out, okay, why does this need to be recertified, and what happens, so that I can explain this to my faculty member that has to recertify. So we will attach that as well as a copy of the previously certified effort statement. So another topic we've gotten some questions on are reports. These are some reports you all have access to. And I know we got a question about the certification status report, and that's actually one I took out of the presentation because I thought there is a report, and you'll find it in ECC if you want to get a report of everyone who is still pending. I do believe you're going to have to run that by org. So those of you that have multiple orgs, you may have to run that multiple times. I'm not 100% sure. But you could also just as easily look at your department dashboard once ECC or pre-review is open. That's where you'll find all your statuses. And I feel like those kind of stand out more. You can email from the system, or it'll like pop up an email and it'll come from your Outlook email. But you can send emails from the system to those folks. You can send them to a group of folks that are all in the ready for certification status and you're waiting for them to certify. You can send an email to all of them through the system. So I would say I would favor more of, the dashboard for that type of purpose. And then I'll show examples of some of these other reports that are available. So this is the payroll report. This is going to show all of the employees on a particular fund for a particular faculty member. So this is a larger view if you're trying to see everybody who works with that particular individual. There's a certifier payroll summary report. So this is going to show all the payroll for the year, month by month, and how much is being charged. That might help you out in your review. And the SPES, I know I use this one more frequently when statements are split on a project between effort and project, and you're like, okay, who all is on there? I want to see everybody's certified effort. You can go to the SPES report, and up here, there's no one on this particular screenshot, but they will show up, you know, effort statements will show up under the faculty statement results, and then the project statements will show all the individuals. So then you can see everybody, regardless of statement associated with that particular fund. And then there's also PI and staff reports. This is going to show everybody on a particular working with a PI and their monthly payroll. So there's slightly different. I'm not sure if you all use one over another. I know from central office we tend to use probably one or two of those that we showed. And then lastly, I think these are some of the things that we went over in the recording. So I'm not really going to go through these. I'm just talking about the dashboard, faculty certification, project certifications is where you can get all your statuses, statement statuses, grant fund information. Yeah, so in the search function, I think most of that was gone through with the demo, how you could possibly add an ECC or a business manager. And I guess we did take up most of the time, or I did. I just want to note the preferred browsers are Chrome and Firefox. We have run into issues with Edge, Explorer, if anyone still uses that. Maintenance occurs on the third Saturday of each month. So that's just something to keep in mind if you're working on a weekend, and it might come down to that during effort reporting, that if it's the third Saturday of the month, there could be some glitches or some downtime. Turn off your pop-up browsers. Make sure you're refreshing regularly because you could get timed out of ECC, search function won't work, etc. Save your work.